Welcome to the Pop Culture Cosmos.
We're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos and the PCC Multiverse. It's Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching. Truly appreciate you joining us if you're listening out there on every podcast outlet or YouTube, Twitch, what have you. Or if you're one of the great radio stations that also picks us up, I cannot thank you enough for supporting us each and every week right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Well, wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos or PCC Multiverse without a good friend indeed. It is, of course, the man who is a traveling man with us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. It is a good man indeed. It is the great one, the guru of pop culture, back once again. It is TJ Johnson. And TJ, when you said, Gerald, I'm going to be heading out on the road this weekend, you better get me while you can. I said, you know what? I will take you up on that indeed.
What's up, G? Thanks so much for having me back on again. And yeah, man, this is the best time to take advantage of it is me and four walls and wheels and open space. So yeah, take advantage.
There you go. Well, look, hold on. Not looking gift horse in the mouth. There you go.
Definition. That is right the denotation right there.
Exactly, indeed. So I've got you lined up. I do appreciate it. And thank you so much for taking the time out, especially as long as you're driving safe, of course. We had a great conversation. Well, if it's just flat and straight, there you go. But I've been there and I've done that. I'll just say that. But we had a great conversation talking about Xbox, but I wanted to go ahead and focus on another organization that has achieved the heights of heights within recent times, but is now getting kind of a little bit of a feedback, so to speak, because when it comes to what we're seeing with the WWE, I put the pun in there. Is the WWE at a crossroads? Because we're heading to WrestleMania 42 here in Las Vegas.
Right.
And I just don't feel the vibes. I think there's a lot of contributing factors to that. Storylines, creative prices. It's very concerning. And again, the pro wrestling industry cycles in and out, highs and lows. And I get that. And the WWE had been on a very much of a high in recent years, but I don't feel that same way anymore right now. And we're reflective that in as far as the sales are concerned of the WWE, as far as their advanced ticket sales. They're now restricting for both the upcoming Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania viewing in and around the cities that they're in, because they want people to go to the arena live. This is of concern to me. This is a concern that the corporate greed and the lack of creativity combined has put the WWE in peril for its near and distant future.
Yeah, Gerald, I think I am in 100% agreement on the WWE being at a crossroad. Now, what I will say is that they are still in a very unique position to where it's live storytelling. So they have the ability to pivot in any way, shape, or form that they need to help with this build up to WrestleMania. I would absolutely agree with, again, everything that you said. The WWE is definitely at a crossroad. And what I mean by that, I know the pun was intended, but in all seriousness, they really are at a crossroad. And here's the why, Gerald. Once the TKO group became involved and it became a bigger corporation than what I think anybody had ever thought it would be, with ESPN actually having specific coverage for WWE, and with the global, even more so global appeal, if you can even get more global than what the WWE had already done. There comes an increasing number of eyes on the product. And with that increasing number of eyes, an increasing number of opinions. With that increasing number of opinions, an increasing number of people who don't particularly like the product or who are disheartened with the product. And I think that's a very natural thing to happen. But in the WWE's case in particular, due to how quickly it turned, because if you remember about 2 years ago, once Triple H had officially taken over as creative control and Vince McMahon had officially kind of stepped to the side in the middle of his, numerous off-air issues, there was like a high. Everything seemed to be clicking on the right notes. Everybody was just in love with what Paul Levesque was doing, Paul Triple H Levesque was doing, and people couldn't seem to be happier, right? But as you become one of the only games in town, no pun intended or pun intended, as you become one of the only games in town and everybody is now fighting for a few spots on the roster, a few main event spots on the roster, it's very natural for there to be the cream that rises to the top. And then some of the stuff that, obviously sinks to the bottom, but then some of the stuff that's kind of in the middle and kind of is left in limbo. And I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of different characters, a lot of different storylines that were or are currently happening in the WWE right now. It's a good problem to have as far as having the wealth of talent that they do. The concern that I have is that they just don't seem to have the writing chops at this point to work with the talent that they have thus far. I mean, there are some superstars who are just super over, right? Obviously Cody Rhodes is super over. He's going to be super over probably until he retires. Jey Uso is not as over as he once was, and he's probably the prime example of giving the people what they want and seeing what happens with it. And unfortunately, he just didn't do anything memorable with his WWE title run to the point where he had to go back to being a tag team competitor with his brother Jimmy. The problem is that the storylines just aren't fresh enough. They're not fresh enough. They're not intriguing enough. I find myself looking back at old Raw clips, old Raw segments, old SmackDown segments, because it seemed that they were really hitting their stride in the late 90s, early to mid 2000s. And it was really a melting pot of a lot of different things going on at the time. The Attitude Era was in full swing. People were becoming more brazen on the microphone. The WWE was charting its own territory and becoming its own entity. So there was an excitement there. And then the storylines were amazing. And, they went into long form storytelling and long storytelling where it took time and it took build up and good build up and good build up. And there are just certain things that just aren't happening like that anymore. I think they're trying to establish those long-term storylines, but we have to remember, and we've talked about this on multiple shows at this point, that the way that we consume media has changed. And so the long form storytelling doesn't really seem to be working for the average consumer of WWE products at this particular time. And then if you go away from the storyline aspect of it, the entry cost to get into enjoying these type of things and these live premium live events, these PLEs that they're having, you have to pay different streaming fees to different streaming companies and different streaming apps. And I'd almost just rather go back to just having to dial a pay-per-view number and ordering it through there, as opposed to trying to have to figure out on today which app it is. Is it Peacock? Is it on Netflix? Where am I getting to watch it today? Like, what do I get to turn on to? So there's so many different things.
So many different things. Yeah.
So many different things going against WWE right now that it makes it very, very difficult to truly, truly just enjoy the product and be able to keep up with what's going on. So not being able to keep up with the storylines taking too long to manifest, or storylines is kind of being deleted from existence midway through. It's a mess right now at WWE. And I don't know if they I don't know if they realize how big of a mess that they have on their hands at this point. I mean, again, as you mentioned, we're coming up on WrestleMania 42, and there is zero, I don't want to say zero hype, but there is little to no hype in regards to WWE's WrestleMania 42 event, and that's very, very unusual, especially right coming out of the Rumble. Out of the Rumble, it's usually full steam ahead into WWE's WrestleMania, and right now it's just not. It's not that at all, and that should absolutely be sounding off every alarm that they have. This is their Super Bowl. This is their NBA Finals. This is their event, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody seems to really care. And that should be very concerning. So they are absolutely at a crossroads.
It's concerning because again, as the leader in the professional wrestling industry, you don't have many options. All Elite Wrestling, as much as it likes to hype itself up as the great alternative, that is there are a lot of things you can really point out what they're not doing right and what they are doing right as far as it's concerned. So, but it seems to be in a similar area as far as creativity issues, as far as just the product itself not being at a as once fresh as it was earlier this decade, similar to what they seem to have gone similar parallels as far as they're concerned, as far as both having better times 2-3 years ago when their creative was, I think, a lot fresher, a lot more appealing to a wider audience on both accounts. So we will see what happens. But with the WWE, I mean, there's also the mentality. I don't know as far as WWE and Rio, the series that supposedly quote unquote takes you behind the scenes. I think you and I, we watch that series, it tells you, doesn't tell you much. Personally, is what I think it doesn't do. I think there's still some glass ceilings that need to be broken that we saw back in the 90s with Stone Cold Steve Austin, just so popular that the creative had to get started behind him. There are individuals now these days, and again, they could also go ahead and pull out the Bad Bunny deal. They're currently, as of this recording, possibly negotiating for a return for Bad Bunny for WrestleMania 42, most likely against Logan Paul. We'll have to wait and see how that materializes. But I think there are stars that they can use. There are stars that can, I think, make this product fresher, but they don't choose to use them. They don't choose to use them wisely. There are stars that they're starting to look at, but they're not willing to go ahead and go all the way with it. We still have I guess for lack of a better term, the old boys network, both on the women's and the men's side, when you consider there's still individuals at the very top that just, again, they're the same individuals you saw 2, 3, 5, 6 years ago. And I'm not sure all of them still resonate with audiences. And there are other individuals who are garnering interest from fans, garnering responses from fans that the WWE just chooses not to go ahead and move up higher on the card for.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% to piggyback on that. I'm with you. I'm not 100% sure on why. I understand that you only have so many shows. I understand you can only have so many superstars on SmackDown and Raw and I'm sorry, not NWO, NXT, excuse me. Like there's only so much screen time. I recognize that, and it makes it very, very difficult to establish a lot of the newer younger stars. With that being said, though, it really goes back to really making me appreciate something like John Cena and what John Cena did for his final and his farewell tour. He gave a lot of people opportunities who haven't been getting a lot of opportunities. Had an amazing match with AJ Styles. And AJ Styles, while he was always a player, was not an elevated player. He was kind of he was probably a above average mid card to a below average main event, right? So he's probably a B plus to A minus superstar, if you will. But John Cena made it his business to try to help establish other stars, other people besides himself, besides the Roman Reigns, besides the Cody Rhodes, to kind of get the ball rolling and get this next generation of superstars really up and off the ground. And I think the problem with that is that is that the creative minds that are really behind these storytelling just don't know what to do with them. They feel like they probably, I'm guessing that they feel like they've treaded water, and that they're just treading water, and that they've told these storylines in ways, shapes, or form in the past. And so it's probably becoming a little difficult for them to create something new and exciting and fresh and interesting. So I can understand that aspect of it. I think the unfortunate reality to that is the booking is what really makes the stars. If you don't give The Rock, if The Rock, after he has that one match, doesn't beg Vince to give him just 30 seconds on a microphone and Vince say okay, then I don't know if we have The Rock as we know him today. It's such an organic situation, such an organic business, that it's scripted drama or scripted television that can change at a moment's notice. And somebody doing something as simple as CM Punk dropping his pipe bomb on WWE on that faithful day, that changes the course of a particular superstar's path. Um, and I don't know if the storytelling aspect is going to help that, because you can't plan for a pipe bomb. You can't plan for somebody like The Rock, before he was The Rock, to come out and electrify the millions and millions of The Rock's fans in the way that he did at that particular time. There's no way to plan for that. So it's tough because there's no good storytelling, but I don't know how many good stories there really are left to tell, if that makes sense. Not that we can't figure out something. I mean, we can go develop an AI generated AI wrestling scenario generator and plug in keywords and key superstars and let them kind of come up with the storylines. I don't know, but
Or you
we've
could do
got
it in WWE 2K26 when it comes
there
out.
you go. Yeah. You can start creating your own rivalries there and your intergender matches and all that good stuff. If we're gonna plug WWE 2K26, we should be getting a copy of that.
Well,
I
I would
digress
love
though.
that.
I digress. I'm sure it's a difficult situation for them to be in. They've got a lot of great talent and not enough screen time for said talent to really take off. It's almost like you need a writer for every I don't want to say every superstar, because that would be egregious, but for every main event roster star. I don't know. Like it gets. I can understand how people can look up to somebody like a Kevin Feige, right? At least for the first, the multiverse, not the multiverse saga, but for the Infinity Saga, was able to kind of have this board of ideas and storylines for every different story and how it ties into the overall long form storytelling.
You
Yeah.
were talking about the WWE and
Yeah.
comparing it to Marvel, because Marvel's long-term storytelling, which
Correct.
at one time was very good, but you were comparing it to this long-term storytelling right now of what WWE maybe needs to get back to in its.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they're so similar is actually is funny and sad at the same time, because they both kind of go through the same issue, right? So if they're being so similar to the MCU, they have this whole long-term storytelling and wanting to get maximum story out of minimum effort, minimum people. And it's just, the problem with that is, at least for the WWE, is they want to try to pivot, they want to try to change up things, and it's just, they're not committed to the long-term storytelling. And I think it's because of just the way that we consume media, the way we consume the WWE content now is just completely different. It's a different landscape than it was in the early 2000s and the late 90s, early 2000s, even the mid 2000s. It's a different time, different world. So they're trying to figure out ways to adapt and adjust. And unfortunately, it's not really converting into good storytelling at all. Not even a little bit. And that's the bigger problem, I think. And so you have all this talent and you don't have good storylines to go along with this talent. And it makes for a mess. It makes for a mess of production, and it makes for a mess of the ultimate end product that the consumer is receiving, which is us. And it makes it very frustrating. So yes, they are at a crossroad, no pun intended, and they need to make a decision if they want to poop or get off the pot.
They do. And I think they do need to go with different individuals in those slots. I really think that some of the individuals involved, does CM Punk still resonate with fans? Cody Rhodes, I don't know. You'd have to see his sales to see right now, is this still the same effect from when he was on top or going after those storylines? Does he still have the same effect? Roman Reigns, who is now back in the spotlight as far as the main event. Are we back to where we were in 2017 and 2018 with him when just fans were pooing the idea of Roman Reigns at the top of the food chain? Or are we back to 22, 23 when he was dominating and people seemed to get really into it once they realized he was at the head of the table? So again, I don't know if any of those guys are doing it, but I do know that there are fresh talents or underutilized talents that they could do much more with. I mean, we just saw a bit, as we're recording this over the past week, we've seen the future of what it could look like with guys like Obafemi, Trick Williams, Javon Evans. We've seen that there's extremely underutilized talents that they could utilize, such as LA Knight and Chelsea Green on the that are lauded by fans and wanting something more for those individuals. But there are individuals out there that they could lean on in the future. Braun Breaker, when he comes back, could be someone that again that should be given more on his plate. But will they? That's the question. Will they, and will it be too late when they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think that especially, looking at somebody like Trick Williams, who really has the whole package, right? He's got the look, he's got the charisma, he's got the mannerisms. It seems like he really just needs an opportunity and a spot to shine. I think this is one of the things that people are a little frustrated with Paul Levesque, in regards to even going so far as saying that he doesn't like to promote or bring up, African American superstars and put the spotlight on them, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with, but
I don't agree with that
yeah,
because I
I don't
think
agree with
that
it.
the resume dictates otherwise. Like right now,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, our women's champion is Jade Cargill. So absolutely. But at the same token, to be fair, you don't bring somebody like Jade Cargill in and don't expect to give them the belt at some point. So
and that's a problem there with Jade Cargill because Jade Cargill, a great athlete, obviously very dominating size, strength. No one will question that. But when you
her
don't give her
wrestling
anybody
prowess,
to play with, when you
yeah,
don't give her anybody to play with,
yeah,
that is at her level,
yeah,
it makes it really hard for her to be um, admired or even interested by
yeah,
the audience, and that's what I'm seeing with her right now. I mean, if Bianca Belair or Rhea Ripley or someone of her size and stature, or as far as strength for that matter,
right.
is involved with that, or someone who the fans believe could be at that level are involved in that, then that's no problem. But if you're feeding her just mid carders at best, and if you're destroying other ones like Chelsea Green, it really doesn't help your cause at all. So I would have said, you know what, I'm going to take the title off you now, but I plan to put it on later when you have better contenders that accentuate your strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. And being the one to talk on the microphone and carry on in that way is definitely not a strength of hers.
No, no.
It's a
She's
blatantly
okay,
apparent.
but
She's okay. It's not a
it's too script reading for my
yeah.
taste.
Yeah, there's not enough freestyle. There's not enough interaction. She doesn't have that ability to feed off of the WWE universe in that way. She's very much stick to the script, not get too far ahead, not deviate in any way, shape, or form. Just stick to it. And I think for you to be a really effective communicator in WWE, especially on a microphone, you've got to be able to learn when to pivot. You got to be able to adjust your style based on the feedback that you get. Not that you can't still hit the same points, but you have to be able to adjust your style based on the feedback that you're getting from the WWE universe. And I don't feel like she's very good at that. So you have to give her, to me, you'd have to give her somebody like a Paul Heyman, somebody that can really speak for her, almost make her out to be a Brock Lesnar type of female athlete, where she's just walking around, not saying much and just smashing people. just absolutely destroying them. I think you have to do that with her personally.
Well, I think also as well, the idea of having these Monday and Friday champions, as I call them, it's just ridiculous. How can you have an undisputed title when you dispute it by its very nature on the next show coming up after the weekend? So,
Right.
yeah, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I think that they need to go to one title again, one
Yeah.
universal title for the entire time. That makes things easier as far as more straight to the point as far as who is challenging for the title. It gives you have less to deal with or have to worry about as far as feeding quality or viewable or watchable contenders for that very title. So I think that's part of the problem, Deed. And I understand in their zest and their zeal to make sure that they can fill up as much time as possible, so they can get as much time paid for as possible by entities out there, or do what they can as far as for the Netflixes and USAs of the world. But they just have to realize that they have to put a good product out there first and foremost. And I'm not sure they're always focused in on doing just that.
No, and again, that's what we were talking about earlier when you start talking about more and more people whose hands are in the pot. Now you got the TKO investors and things of that nature. They're trying to, they have deals struck with Netflix, and now you have deals struck with Peacock, and like there's too many hands in the pot. And when you have so many people that are vying for a piece of that pie, and they're paying for it, they kind of want what they want, and they want to be able to see certain things. And now here you are, if you're Paul Levesque, you're trying to appease all these other shareholders and all these other people who have a skin in the game, if you will. And it makes for a disjointed, uh, a bit convoluted, if you will, form of storytelling that just doesn't always land the way it needs to.
No, it doesn't. But we will wait and see if the WWE can get it right on their road to WrestleMania. We've got, of course, Elimination Chamber coming at the end of February. And then going forward from there, when it comes to April, they do have time to turn around. Early sales indications are that both nights of WrestleMania are down substantially, so they will need a Bad Bunny. I think they'll need a Bad Bunny
Yeah.
type of maneuver to go ahead and improve it, because Brock Lesnar doesn't do it anymore.
No.
And what they're doing isn't doing it anymore right now, especially when you're trying to justify the ticket prices. Even if you throw a sale every now and then on them, like they did this past weekend, I think that there's a lot of issues and a lot of concerns, and part of it, to me, is the creative that's being run. Are you excited what WWE is doing right now? And I can't really say that I am.
Yeah, yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. It's just not the quality that we are expecting at this point. I agree. I think you're gonna have to bring in a big name to kind of save WrestleMania, if you will. And I don't know who that big name is at this point. I don't think The Rock. I mean, I'm sure The Rock is available or would make himself available, but I don't know how you write a storyline in for him at this point. Like, there's just not a lot of options that people can bring in that would not that would make sense, that wouldn't cheapen the last time we've seen them out. Obviously The Rock is an example of somebody who we could bring back, and he'll kind of be able to slot right in wherever they need him to, with very minimal explanation to anything, as opposed to, like, now with John Cena retired and AJ Styles retired, we couldn't just pop them back in for one last thing, because then it cheapens their retirement and it cheapens everything that was built up to that retirement. And so yeah, they've painted themselves into a bit of a corner, unfortunately.
And they might have to speed things up, because right now they have individuals like Obafemi doing the slow burn on television, doing squash matches and whatnot. People are already, that are already familiar with the NXT product, know him already. People have already been very interested to see. And one of the few highlights of Royal Rumble was him facing off against Brock Lesnar. I would do that match. Right now, seeing the money trouble, I would do that match in Las Vegas in April.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I would have him put over. I would have him be put over by Brock Lesnar. I would have Obafemi win and move forward.
yeah. See, they need to hire you. Just let's write a letter. Get somebody on the phone. Somebody get The Rock on the phone, and let's write a letter and say that Gerald Glassford needs to be in charge of storylines for WWE for the foreseeable future.
I would love it. I would welcome it. I know it's not a fun job. I know it's not a very much appreciated job because the fact that you're like criticized by like everybody within both in and outside the company, but I do it. But some of this is just really simple. I
Yeah.
mean, for instance, you could just go, like I said, okay, you've already placed a situation where LA Knight needs to get revenge on the Vision, the group that's
Mhm.
led by Paul Heyman. You already found out that that what's going on when Seth Rollins comes back. He needs to get revenge on the Vision. So there, the two stories there could intertwine, and it writes itself for there. Okay, there you
Go.
go. For Cody Rhodes, you have to this Jacob Fatu. Drew McIntyre love hate fest that they all have with each other with Sami Zayn thrown in the middle there.
Right.
It's getting more convoluted. Okay, and I understand you want to turn Sami Zayn heel and all that. I just again, Sami Zayn has already been hurt enough to where he's not at the level of these guys anymore.
Right.
He had a brief run as one of the most popular individuals in the company, and you chose to have him still do a job to Roman Reigns in Canada when you had a chance to get him supremely over for a short period of time. And he didn't do it. And sometimes that window goes by, like you said, with Jey Uso, where
Yeah.
it just doesn't work out and you have to
Yeah.
move on and
Got to pivot.
pivot somewhere else. And it just seems like there are some certain things and certain tweaks you could make if you were stepping in there, the great one or me or anybody that has a level head looking at this from the outside can see what you could do to do better for this company right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, even with the great Triple H, who's behind the scenes doing all the creative direction and whatnot, even he has to be willing to pivot and make adjustments. So just the same way that we could talk about Jade Cargill needing to pivot and make adjustments, or any other professional wrestler needing to pivot and make adjustments, as the person that's in charge of the different storylines or the different content, he's got to be willing. And I've heard that he's willing to do that kind of stuff on different stories. I've also heard stories where he's very, very hard to work with because he doesn't bend very often. So I don't know what is or isn't true, but I know that anytime you're in a position of leadership, you need to have to show a level of adaptability and being able to switch things up on the fly if need be. So they need to be better about being willing to do so. I know that they're going to say that, they did it with The Rock and John Cena, and, with John Cena turning heel and decided not to have The Rock involved or whatever the case. I hear you. I don't know that it was something that was presented the way it was supposed to be presented, but they just need to do a better job at pivoting and not be scared to do so. That's kind of my point.
I think it started to fail, and I know it was voted in many places, including the Wrestling Observer, as the worst match of the year. Again, it was a terrible match, especially the end part, the last part of that match. But I don't think it was the worst match. I saw worse last year. But John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania with the Travis Scott entrance, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. I wanted to say something else, but this is a family-friendly program. I think that's when we saw the creative dearth start. I think that's when we saw the creative fall start to happen, because they did not execute the John Cena retirement tour very well, very cleanly. And I think it started there. And like you said, The Rock's non-appearance at WrestleMania was a big thing. I think it came off as a letdown for that entire weekend. I think there is some memories for that. And I think a lot of people are not spending big money to come back to Vegas because of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I would say that, and I think we kind of talked about it briefly, but with John Cena's heel turn, and it was something that everybody thought they wanted until they got it, and then they were like, this really isn't what I wanted, right?
But it could have been what they
truth,
wanted. Could have been, but they just, the way it was presented, it wasn't,
Yeah. But I also, the truth is, they didn't have a whole lot of time to really establish it. if they were gonna do this heel turn, it really probably should have happened 6 months earlier than when it did.
Yeah, I agree.
You let that thing happen 6 months earlier, and you give the storylines a chance to breathe, because they had to do a whole lot of storytelling in a very short amount of time.
But you also put him with a faction or with a Paul Heyman or something to help accentuate that turn.
Exactly.
And yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, there's got to be more teeth to it. So I think the heel turn would have been believable, and I like what he did as far as saying I'm not giving you new music. Like this is my music. This is what you're gonna get, or you're not gonna get a jumbotron. You're gonna get a picture of me or a picture of my shirt or whatever the case may be. I didn't dislike it. I just feel like he didn't have enough time to really flesh it out and let it be something that was even more. So
yeah.
I didn't dislike it. It just wasn't what it could have been.
100% agreed. And I think again, if people would be willing to pay these really extravagant prices, sale or discounted or not, if the creative was fresh and exciting like it was
Yes.
a year or two ago, but it isn't. It isn't, and thus the WWE is having its problems right now, filling up for the Elimination Chamber and the WrestleMania going forward. But we will wait and see as the road to WrestleMania continues. We want to hear your thoughts. Are you happy with a WWE product right now? When I'm getting complaints on the Lakers Fast Break about the WWE, I think the
Yeah.
answer is mostly no. But if you have thoughts out there, put it in the comments below or popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But before we head on out, my friend, I wanted just to run through a couple more topics to go ahead right now. Actually, three more, because I don't think you have a retro review available to you
No.
right
No,
now,
sir.
driving in the middle of Georgia right now.
Yeah.
Resident Evil Requiem
Okay.
is the first, would you call it the first really big game of 2026?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. I
Okay.
think that's fair to say.
Okay. And I was just looking up on Metacritic. I was just typing in as far as in recently, as far as how well, since you and I obviously have, something to stake on it.
Yes.
Yes. So, going through so many Resident Evils and the inline Resident Evils, not minding Resident Evil 6,
Right.
most of these Resident Evils are in the 80s or 90s. So the pressure's on. The standard has been set, and it's up to Capcom to get it done. Your thoughts, my friend? Uh, the games, and especially Resident Evil Village, that
Mhm.
still looks beautiful to this day. The lip syncing on that game, I think, set a standard for quite some time.
Yeah.
And the facials, the animations on the close-ups, which you and I know after decades of watching not so great close-ups in video games. I really think that this is something I'm excited for, and it's things like that, also plus the Resident Evil gameplay, which
Mhm.
could really bring me back into the world of Resident Evil, which has tried hard with the movies and TV series to try to get me away from all too much.
Yeah, I'm excited for Requiem. I've been going back and finishing up Resident Evil Village to kind of get myself into that mode for Requiem. Um, I am from everything that I'm hearing is saying that this is going to kind of be a marriage between 7 and 8, where 7 and 8, where you have the horror aspects as you're playing parts of 7. I'm sorry, as if you're playing parts of 7, and then you're going to have the action as aspects of it as if you're playing parts of 8 or Resident Evil 4, whichever one you want to kind of use into that action equation. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to playing this, especially because I used to be the kid that couldn't play the Resident Evil games, not because the parents wouldn't let him, but because I was too scared to play them. And so now, as an adult, I'm like, forget that. I am going to play these games. This is a fictional game. These are fictional monsters. I have real world stuff to worry about. I'm not going to worry about the video game monsters. So Now, me being a newly reformed lover of Resident Evil, I am absolutely looking forward to Requiem. And on top of the fact that I have it on my fantasy draft list, but I definitely am looking forward to experiencing Requiem for sure.
Absolutely. But did you play Village on VR or did you just regular?
It's funny you mentioned that. So, Village, I didn't play on VR, but I did play Seven on VR. And holy crap, that is an intense. That was the first and last time I ever played a spooky game in front of my wife. I did not mean to. I did not mean for that audible um x whatever, that audible thing that came out of me. I don't even know what I would call it, but I didn't mean for that to come out. I don't even know what it was, but it was an audible gasp when something popped up on my visor screen. And obviously, if it's VR, she's not seeing what's going on. She just sees my response to it. And yeah, needless to say, I won't be playing that one anymore.
No, not in the slightest. But
No.
definitely the bar has been set very high for Resident Evil. So we'll see. I do know that there are copies already floating around because they broke street date on that. The reviews are not in as of this recording, which is good. So we don't have an early indication yet if people are liking or not liking it, but they're playing it now already.
Right.
So
Right.
yes, and I'm not going to say I never did that when I was running game stores, Gears of War, but need I digress. With that, though, it is Resident Evil Requiem. I'm looking forward to it as far as to see how well it resonates with the audience, how well it resonates with you. Again, I'm just the fact that it just looks so good, and it's one of the best looking games villages of this generation really has me excited for what's coming up with Requiem.
Yeah, 100% agree, bud. It looks amazing. I feel like the gameplays that I've seen looks amazing, and everybody wants to know what's going on with Leon. What is happening with his hand in that trailer? What is going on, Leon? We demand answers to these questions.
Yeah. We will see what's going on. I want to know how they're going, because it looks like you are going to play as two different characters. How are they going to be swappable on the fly? Is it going to be story based, like where you're doing one area as one character? I think that's what they're probably going to do. One character as another character. That's traditionally what they've done. So we will wait and see. Are you a fan of just the single player immersion experience with Resident Evil, or I mean, they've dipped their hand into multiplayer and they've dipped their hand into co-op. Are you wanting to go back to that, or are you just excited for just a single player experience?
I mean, I'm excited for the single player experience, but I would not shun a multiplayer experience that actually is ran and continues to run on Scream. I'm sorry, on Resident Evil. I think that if you look at the Dead by Daylight series or the Friday the 13th series, there's a niche for it. And there's a niche for that survivor horror co-op experience where they're trying to make it to the next day. So I do think that they should kind of lean more into some multiplayer aspects of it, obviously not getting too crazy. But I think there's room for it. I absolutely do. I remember playing Resident Evil 5, and that was a co-op game. You could play with a partner for that one. And that was really enjoyable. Now, granted, that was right after 4, so it was extremely heavy action-orientated as well. But I do think that particular level or that particular game translated very well into a multiplayer experience, for me personally.
Okay. Again, I'm really excited for it to see what happens. I know that Josh is as well. It is Resident Evil Requiem. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts out there on Resident Evil Requiem. If you are excited for it, please let us know in the comments below or popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But before we head on out, my friend, I wanted to go ahead and get your thoughts because we're now starting to see some stuff being released. I know that the stuff we talked about before, the Valentine's Day releases, and this time around movie wise, it was like, I mean, Goat, Wuthering Heights are doing, eh, eh, eh. I mean, the box office got off to a good start with Zootopia 2 this year, coming over from all the way from November and still doing well. Avatar, Fire, uh, that's been doing great as well. So yeah, those movies really kicked off the year and leading into Wuthering Heights, Goat,
Hmm.
what have you. I want to ask your thoughts though. Scream 7 is coming back
Hmm.
on the screen. Your thoughts, my friend, on this when it comes right down to it. This is something we don't know how that will be received. And I'm not talking about critically either, because you don't go to this type of movie as far as concerned with any level expectations that's going to be a premier horror movie, but with the necessity of having to bring some old characters back, some which I thought were killed, but apparently are
Hmm.
alive, because of what happened with the two lead actresses that were initially hired, and one I think fired and the other left, if I remember correctly. Your thoughts, my friend? Oh, one including Jenny Ortega, by the way. Your thoughts, my friend? Does Ghostface still have some stabs left that will interest a lot of people?
Uh, that will interest a lot of people is a loaded question because for you to go see that film, you have to already have some type of intimate knowledge or some type of general knowledge, I should say, about Ghostface and what that whole movie world looks like. I was never a huge fan of. I'm not a huge fan of those type of horror movies. Those teens being slaughtered type. But I was never a big fan of those. So I am not sure how to answer that question direct. What I can say is that there is a apparent appetite for it because we're on the seventh iteration of it, right? It'd be different if it was, one and two, and they were thinking about possibly a three, but no, we're on number seven. This is almost like the Call of Duty of thrillers of horror thriller movies. So I don't know if it's got more stab length or if it can go the distance in that regard, but it has gone a distance thus far. So time will tell, I guess. Time will tell.
You know who the most, I guess, who the most anticipated individual is? The person who's anticipating the hopeful success for Scream 7 the most.
No, who was that?
That would be the Wayans, because they're bringing back Scary Movie. I think they're on Scary Movie 6. So, and where they get that movie from is they get it from Scream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Damon was the one that said if Scary Movie 6 does well, I think he said White Chicks and one more movie, he would come back as well. So I guess a lot is riding on it per se, as far as I can
Okay.
tell.
That sounds like a Marlon comment. It doesn't sound like Damon. It sounds like Marlon
I'm
would say
gonna see. I'm
stuff
gonna
like
see. Let me
that.
check. I thought it was Damon, but
I mean, it might have been. It just seems like it just sounds something that Marlon would
it
have
could
said.
be. You could be right. It was Marlon. Let me go ahead. Wayans and Scary Movie 6. Yeah, I'm just the reason why I say that, because again, the success of what we're seeing with Scream. Marlon, you were right. You were right.
Mm.
100%. It was Marlon
Marlon
Wayans.
wins, yeah.
Yes, he said if Scary Movie 6 does well, expect sequel to White Chicks and Don't Be a Menace. So there you go. All right.
That's
So
funny.
looking for that. Looking forward to that. Like, I guess so. All right, but if you have thoughts out there on the success of Scream 7 and how well it will do at the box office, please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. But my friend, before we head away, I wanted to go ahead and touch on one last thing for sure, and that is Pixar. And I leave this because I'm not sure, because you're gonna need time to settle in. So I don't know if we're gonna address Pixar with the release of Hoppers, which is the next week
Mhm.
after Scream 7. I told you last year I went to Pixar.
Mhm.
And I saw the community there. They looked like it was very close. It was very enjoyable. People there, they will show you around. They're just so hospitable in certain areas. You have to stay in a certain area. They can't take you. It's like think of it like a college campus, but there
Of
are only
course.
certain parts
Yeah.
of the campus that they can take you to.
Yeah.
But you get to see the history. You can see how they interact with each other. The employees do. It seems like it's a great place to be. And when I went there, I still saw a lot of hope. They were just coming off the disappointment of Elio. But I saw that there was still a lot of positivity going forward. When I spoke to my
Okay.
friend who works at Pixar, he was still upset about what went on with Elio, but you could see what he wanted to see out of what was coming up on the slate for the future. And of course, as I say this, the more detailed storyline of Toy Story 5 came out with a trailer based off of the old toys versus a tech with um, a iPad type deal, as far as one of those kids iPads. Actually, what I bought what kids, one of those kids that iPads back in the day, the tablets back in the
Got it.
day. Um, so they're going to battle with each other on that. I think that will still, as we talked about on our box office, that still is going to be a pretty good hit and a pretty good sized hit going forward. But it's Hoppers, I think that's going to really make or break the year for Pixar. And the thing comes down to, as far as it's a new IP again from Pixar, and Pixar does not have the greatest track record with
Yeah.
new IPs, and Disney, seeing how they've had great success with Zootopia and other IPs that they've now made sequels off of, I worry about Pixar. I worry about what happens to those people and those individuals and that great environment that they have, because if Hoppers does not do well, if Toy Story 5 does okay or even good, but doesn't do the numbers that because I think you took Toy Story 5, or did I?
I think I picked.
Okay, so that the numbers that you hope that they can do, and you know what? I will go ahead and I will root with you on that one. I'll give you one that I'll root with you 100% on, and that's Toy Story 5. But this is a crucial year, I think, for Pixar. Yes, they can continue with Incredibles 3, Inside Out 3, etc., etc. But their creativity in allowing them to go ahead and continue doing these IPs, they're just going to fail time and time again. It's concerning to me, because they're still great looking pictures. They just don't find and have the audience that resonates along with it.
Yeah. Yeah. They haven't hit that niche audience yet. And the unfortunate truth of that is, I agree, they have amazing pictures and amazing stories behind those pictures. Elio was an amazing movie. I thought the movie was actually very, very well done. It just wasn't received all that well for
Turning
whatever
Red
reason.
would have been a hit in the theaters.
Yes,
It's
it would
such
have. I loved Turning Red. The big old red panda. I love Turning Red. That was great. So
the one with Jamie Foxx, I think, would have been really solid as well.
which one was the one with Jamie
The
Foxx?
one where he ends up dying because he falls through. He was a piano guy.
Yes. Gotcha.
I'll bring up that title here in
Yeah.
a second. But
Yeah.
man,
I know what
it
you're talking
was
about.
only 5 years ago, and already we're forgetting all these. But that's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. The one with the one that was released right as the pandemic was hitting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That one could have been a bigger hit, a much bigger hit than it was. So I mean, part of it is luck. I get it. I understand it. But also part of it is also as well. Soul, by the way, Soul.
Soul, yes.
Yes, and then Onward was the one with Chris Pratt that I think both got a raw deal on. Well, Turning Red to an extent got a raw deal, even though that was huge for Disney Plus. Again, Luca, Elio, to an extent, Elemental, even though that it initially bombed at the box office, it had enough legs to where it may have found a life for itself.
Mm-hmm.
But
Got
that
it.
one took a long time to earn that right away. So I mean, your thoughts, my friend, because it's very concerning to me as someone who has a personal interest in the success of Pixar going forward.
Yeah, it's just tough, especially when you're establishing new IPs, like we discussed already. They just don't seem to be very well received right now. People just seem to want another Incredibles or another, something else that's already been established. They just don't want anything brand new for whatever reason. And that's disappointing too. But I think that it would also, the alternative to that is when you put out something that's really, really, really good, and it happens to be something that nobody really expected, it kind of makes more of an impact. So I want them to stick to their guns with their release schedules and these movies that are not necessarily going to be Hopper, that are not going to be continuing the franchises, because it's for me, and I think to an extent for you as well, it's pretty vital to their success, is them being successfully able to release these films that don't necessarily have 3 years worth of, or 3 films worth of backstory to accompany them into the night, or into that next experience, I should say. I said accompany into the night like they're like a minor or something. You need that experience, accompany into the night.
Again,
Yeah.
I have great concern, my friend,
Yes.
and I think it's rightly justified, because
Agreed.
um, it's just been a problem right now. And I could just see it on my friend's face, even though everybody was still in a great mood and whatnot, great atmosphere. I could just see it on my friend's face as far as going forward. What is it going to be like for the company if they cannot get original IPs to stick? Because you can only do so many sequels. Although Universal with Minions and Despicable Me is trying hard, you can only do so many sequels
Yeah.
of these properties. But we'll wait and see. But I just wanted to get your feedback, my friend, on
Yeah,
it, as
for sure.
someone who has enjoyed the Pixar movies, especially what's gone on recently. I'm hoping that Hoppers will actually be something that they can treasure going forward, and not be ending up. And I like the fact that it's not getting the hype, or really a lot of push behind it like Lightyear did, and they're letting the slow growth go to it as well.
Yeah, yeah. I don't disagree with you at all. I don't
'Cause
disagree at all. We'll see.
there was a lot of hype for Lightyear, and it let everyone down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but
It's
I
not a
don't even
bad
know if I would
movie
say
either.
I don't even know if I would say there was a lot of hype for Lightyear, at least that I heard. I didn't hear a ton of hype for it. I didn't hear I did not see any excitement for telling a story that nobody asked to be told. We didn't ask for Buzz Lightyear's origin. And I don't think enough people really cared personally for his origin. So yeah, no, I'm with you, but I'm not, because I didn't think Lightyear had that kind of. I didn't think they had that kind of fanfare. But maybe it's just when I would see it, or when I experienced it, maybe it was already done. Who knows?
Who knows, indeed, but we will see what happens. It is Hoppers, coming out early March. If you have any thoughts on it, please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, we made it through in 2 parts. Any last thoughts, my friend, as you continue your trek through Georgia on the way out?
You know what? Car rides are long. Make sure you bring something to do or someone to talk to. This is a long ride. 16, 17 hours. That's a long drive. A long drive. But no, thanks for having me on the show again. Love it.
Anytime, my friend. Anytime, my friend. Anytime you need someone to talk pop culture with on another 16 to 17-hour ride, I'll put away my planters to the side that I have to build in order to talk with you, my friend.
My
Anytime.
man. My
There you go.
man.
But it's looking at me now. It says build me, and gonna have to do it.
Yep,
Gonna have to
gotta do it.
Yes. Yeah. If only. Yeah. They took a note from IKEA on these lessons, that's for sure. But it is, of course, the Pop Culture Cosmos. Thanks again for watching, listening, and again, please go ahead, like and subscribe. But it is another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC multiverse and the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening, and here's hoping you have yourself a great day.
Welcome to the Pop Culture Cosmos.